All right, kids. During the 1888 Republican State Convention in Fort Worth, Texas, a group of European Americans tried to do away with some of the black and tan delegates in the party. The black and tans were a racially diverse political coalition. Norris Wright Cuney, the Texas leader who controlled the state party from 1883 until his death in 1896, coined a term to describe the conservative, anti-Reconstruction movement who were against the 13th Amendment and made an organized effort to drive black people from party leadership that he and his group opposed. He called them lilywhites. Now, I can make an entire episode about the black and tan versus lilywhite factions of the Republican Party from that time period, but I'll just give you three things. One, Norris Wright Cuney looked like this. He was biracial. Two, the lilywhites held power in the South all the way through the presidencies of William Howard Taft and Herbert Hoover. There are R's next to their names. And three, this lets me further know that the party switch was along ideological lines. See, as we fast forward to today, when your side of the aisle is currently supported by Confederates and Nazis, you have to pretend like the only thing that has remained the same in the last 150 plus years is the GOP. Before I continue, thank you to DIYOJ for sponsoring this video. I love it. I love it. DIYOJ reached out to me and asked if they could give me a custom made jersey. And I said, yeah, almost immediately, because I already knew what I wanted. On their website, they offer baseball, football, and hockey uniforms, just to name a few. I went with a basketball jersey so I can flex on people. Literally, sun's out, baby. From there, you choose your fashion, pattern, or color. Graffiti, Hawaii, and tie-dye are options. I went with the custom gray, red, white, authentic throwback. If you know, you know. Wait, you probably don't. These look like what the OSU men's basketball team wore in the 90s. However, the example they have online isn't quite what I wanted. And this is why I love my DIYOJ jersey, because after choosing the neckline, gender, size, along with the team name, front number, my name, and back number, and seeing how their website says, we can design and produce almost any jerseys you can imagine from a designer standpoint. And if you can't find the one that suits your style, just contact us and tell us what's your idea. I sent them a picture similar to this one of the great Jimmy Jackson, telling them that I want the name of my YouTube channel above and below the numbers, like so. Also, I don't have a channel logo, so I asked for the Columbus flag. And with everything I asked for, all of it, they pulled it off, which is ironic because I might not pull this jersey off my body. To get 10% off your customized jerseys, shorts, hoodies, hats, and t-shirts, use my code ALLRIGHT10 when you go to DIYOJ.com. That's DIYOJ.com with my code ALLRIGHT10 to get 10% off. With that said, in U.S. history constantly being erased, the lilywhites have to still be a thing, right? I mean, there has to be a group or groups that oppose the inclusion of black people, especially in political or social life. Correct?
Is it equal? What about in sports?
Well, they've got everything. If they take over coaching like everybody wants them to, there's not going to be anything left for the white people. I mean, all the players are black. I mean, the only thing that the whites control is the coaching jobs. Now, I'm not being derogatory about it, but that's all that's left for them. The black talent is beautiful. It's great. It's out there. But, you know, the only thing left for the whites is a couple coaching jobs.
Is this a sports episode? I think we can all agree that there has never been a time in American history when athletics and politics weren't connected. Am I going to have to prove it to you later on in this episode that I wrote, where I was planning on discussing it regardless, designating this part of the script to foreshadowing, as you're about to see? Today we're going to talk about the removal of black people and blackness from web pages and the American pastime. Seeing how this current administration is extremely white, maybe the most European American in this century, and it's difficult for black folks to get elected into office out of the modern GOP, there's no need for their party to part ways with a player. So the heavy lifting comes from middle America and right-wing media carrying the water for Republicans. Conservative politicians will in turn do their bidding. You get it. The Department of Government Efficiency is getting rid of everything considered DEI. Black in other words. Skin color is deemed divisive. This regime is perhaps the reawakening of the movement, the return of the lilywhites, a rebirth due in part to this presidency sticking its doggy in places it doesn't belong. Putting it on a certain race is doing it doggy style. For example,
decades-old artifacts related to slavery and civil rights are rotating out of exhibits at the museum as a potential White House review looms large. In late March, President Trump signed an executive order demanding, in part, the museum take down any exhibits that, quote, divide Americans based on race. But now the White House says that it's washing its hands of any involvement in changes at the museum.
Whether the Smithsonian's Black History Museum got rid of or is rotating exhibits and displayed artifacts, including Harriet Tubman's Book of Hymns and the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, because that's what they usually do, or it was the result of the Trump administration telling them to do so, the timing of these decisions seems suspicious. Replace was that image with Postal Service stamps that highlight black-white cooperation in the secret network and that feature Tubman among abolitionists of both races. Elsewhere, a reference to other enslaved African Americans was changed to enslaved workers. Additionally, a few months ago, due to an order from Pete Hegseth's office, around 900 books were identified for removal from the U.S. Naval Academy's library collection. Quote, this effort ultimately resulted in nearly 400 books being purged from the Nimitz library collection. According to the New York Times, this included Maya Angelou's memoir that details her life of racism and trauma, but did not include Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf. Also,
tell me that this is not true.
Sadly, it is, Joe. A page dedicated to Hall of Famer Jackie Robinson's military history has been removed from the Department of Defense's website. A previously existing article about Robinson's time in the Army during World War II now shows one of those page not found errors, and the new webpage URL includes DEI before the story's headline, indicating it might have been taken down as part of the Trump administration's efforts to eliminate federal DEI programs.
A Pentagon spokesperson admitted that artificial intelligence built by white men, using content from the internet featuring social media built by white men, accidentally removed data from government web pages to rebuild them with white men. What keyword search could they have possibly used to make software erase black history? Like white men. Take me back to a time when black people didn't dominate so much, and it gave them the 1946 St. Louis Cardinals. This is the world champions in a league that black people weren't allowed to play in. World champions of what? I bet it was a human person that put DEI sports heroes in this URL. Anyways, the Pentagon acknowledged that some pages, including those about Jackie Robinson, were mistakenly taken down and have since been restored. And when Mina Kimes went on ESPN's First Take to explain that you cannot tell the story of Jackie Robinson without acknowledging our country's history of racial discrimination, can't believe this had to be said, she was not only met with calls for her to be fired, but the Jesse Kellys of the world responded to what Mina said with, I just want all of you young men to know that there was a time when you turned on any sports show and it would be full of dudes being dudes with sports highlights and funny lines, dunks, big football hits. Now you get henpecked and scolded like you forgot to take out the trash. If bad takes like this weren't enough, there was also this from Robert Griffin III. Sports shows on TV should be about sports, not politics. And somebody please remind him that it's always delete that dumbass tweet o'clock in what has to be the dumbest timeline. This is dumb. With that said, in many ways, sports led this country in being anti-lily white. However,
look, there might be a cautionary lesson in LeBron for kids. This is what happens when you attempt to leave high school a year early to join the NBA. And it's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
You've seen and heard this Laura Ingraham take, and to be fair, She wrote a book 20-something years ago called Shut Up and Sing, and she has told Jimmy Kimmel to shut up and make us laugh every now and then. So this talking point isn't just directed at a basketball-playing black person in order to reduce them to a vocation or occupation. LeBron James took the opportunity to stress that he is more than an athlete, telling him to shut up and dribble, quote, "It'd be the same as telling Jackie Robinson to shut up and slide into home base, or Jesse Owens to shut up and just go triple jump." Also, when Colin Kaepernick protested police brutality by kneeling during the singing of the national anthem after a suggestion to do so from a veteran, and it being customary to honor a fallen soldier by dropping to a knee at their grave, the former 49er quarterback was told that he was disrespecting the military. He replied, "I cannot stand and sing the anthem. I cannot salute the flag. I know that I am a black man in a white world in 1972, in 1947, and at my birth in 1919. I know that I never had it made," said Kaepernick, quoting Jackie Robinson in the process. Going back to the black and tan delegation versus the lilywhites movement, both may have tried to recruit supporters among black and white people, and from the other side of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans alike. The important thing was, as long as your politics and ideology matched your group's method and message.
We have to give some credit to the American people that they're somewhat intelligent and that they know the difference between an opinion show and a news show.
Yeah.
You're cynical. Look at that. Yeah.
I am cynical because,
You think we're bad for America? You think I'm bad for America?
Yeah.
You do?
In the long haul, I think you
Really?
and all these opinion
That's
shows.
sad, Ted.
No, you know why?
That's sad.
Because you're very good at what you do, and because you have attracted a significantly
You
more
are selling the
influential.
American
Let me
people
finish the
short.
Let me finish the sentence
I'm
before
listening.
you do that.
With all due respect.
Yes.
Take the floor.
You have attracted people who are determined that ideology is more important than facts.
You see how Sean Hannity, who will regularly admit that he is a talk show host on Fox News, put that on there, isn't denying that what he brings to his audience is merely opinion, and how it's up to his viewers to notice if he's giving them anything other than actually news. So much so that facts don't matter, and objective reporting is an afterthought.
So let's assess Donald Trump. I've interviewed him a number of times. Not an easy interview. How would you do it?
You know something, Bill, you and I have talked about this general subject many times over the years. It's irrelevant how I would do it. And you know who made it irrelevant? You did. You have changed the television landscape over the past 20 years. You took it from being objective and dull to being subjective and entertaining. And in this current climate, it doesn't matter what the interviewer asks him. Mr. Trump is going to say whatever he wants to say, it as outrageous as it may be.
Fox News did to our parents what they thought video games would do to us. Fox News will knowingly lob up softballs to whomever they agree with just for them to knock it out of the park. And you know what? Other networks do it too, present and past. But it takes a true journalist to figure out a way for the batter to strike themselves out and expose themselves.
That really sounds like garbage if you forget to say so.
It's not garbage, Mr. Koppel, because I played on a college team, and the center fielder was black, and in the backfield at NYU with a fullback who was black. Never knew the difference of whether he was black or white. We were teammates. So it just might be that why are black men or black people not good swimmers? Because they don't have the buoyancy.
Oh, it may just be that they don't have access to all the country clubs and the pool.
Is this a Ted Koppel episode? That was Al Campanis, former general manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers, in an interview from April of 1987. Campanis was a member of Jackie Robinson's former team's front office. Not only that, but Al was Jackie's former roommate and friend. And not only did Campanis say this racist nonsense during a segment commemorating the 40th anniversary of Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier in Major Team American sports, but Jackie's widow, Rachel, was its first guest. If you couldn't tell, how could you? Al Campanis was commenting on the lack of black people being hired as managers and coaches in the major leagues at that time. He was supposed to be peeling that away. Just tell me, why do you think that is? Is there still that much prejudice in baseball today? Ted Koppel asked. A softball of a question that the journalist teed up to get hit out of the park. And poor Roger Kahn. And as this article from The Nation points out, which is something we've talked about before on this channel, the number of black American ball players in the MLB has dropped since the early 80s, from more than 1/4 of major league players to less than 8% around today. And if that clip of Al Campanis sounds similar to the one of Jimmy the Greek that I played earlier, well, that might be due to the fact that the remarks from both of them came within a few months of one another.
Maybe we need to get more black coaches, don't you?
Oh, it's all right with me.
Okay, well,
I'm sure that they'll take over that pretty soon, too.
By the way, Jimmy Snyder, better known as Jimmy the Greek, provided betting information for CBS's The NFL Today in the 80s. According to Sportscasting, Jimmy won $170,000, $1.8 million in 2020 money when adjusted for inflation, with a $10,000 bet that Harry Truman would defeat Thomas Dewey in the 1948 presidential election. A thing you can do in America. Snyder said he based his bet on the observation that a meaningful number of voters, particularly women, were distrustful of politicians with mustaches. So there's that. The point is, where would this country be if it wasn't for black athletes? And where would we be if it wasn't for lilywhites stopping the advancement of colored people? The Supreme Court forbade segregated public schools in 1954, and not until 1948 did a presidential order desegregate the armed forces. Both took place after this man needed to cross the color barrier because lilywhites created one.
My brother ran second to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympic Games. But because Negroes were protesting against discrimination in Pasadena, California back in 1936, his return to Pasadena, he found that they had fired him because other Negroes were protesting. So all these guys who are saying that we've got it made through athletics, it's just not so.
This might just be a Jackie Robinson episode. It's said that sports are supposed to be an escape from whatever. But Jesse Owens and Jackie Robinson proved that's never been true in America. Both men criticized their sports because they loved them. Likewise, they criticized this country because they loved it. They recognized that this country has done a lot for them, and they had done in return the best the U.S. had let them do for it. I mean, peep what conditions Branch Rickey had to consider before he brought Jackie Robinson, or any black man for that matter, into a lily white world. America would rather we endure hardship than we speak up in order to end it. Quote, I once put my freedom into mothballs for a season, accepted humiliation and physical hurt and derision and threats to my family in order to do my bit to help make a lily white sport a truly American game. Many people approved of me for that kind of humility. For them, it was the appropriate posture for a black man. But when I straightened up my back so oppressors could no longer ride upon it, some of the same people said I was arrogant, argumentative, and temperamental. What they call arrogant, I call confidence. What they call argumentative, I categorize as articulate. What they label temperamental, I cite as human. I'll leave you with this. Journalism from Kevin Blackistone. I'm just going to read it as it is. The Spirit of the Times reported in 1837 that an unidentified slave boy rode the winning horse in the New Orleans Jockey Club's jockey's purse, at the time the richest purse, $2,000, in the country, and was showered with hats full of dollars for a masterful ride. Those African Americans were by and large the first written about by the media in the United States. Beyond advertisements, selling slaves that first appeared in 1704 in the Boston Gazette. Thus were laid the racial roots of sports journalism in the United States, which was, and continues to be, mostly white men interpreting the exploits of black athletes. The lens constructed by white sports media to view sports was built primarily to serve white audience. not the black athletes so often the subject of sports coverage. That same lens also more often treated black athletes in a pejorative manner than it did white athletes. Black athletes have been presented as more self-centered, arrogant, and mercenary. They are more often described with words and phraseology that infantilize them. This was and is the appropriate posture for black and tans. Take a stand, and we gonna be all right.